Joe, it'll be really interesting for everyone to hear a little bit about what is manual testing versus automation testing, and we can lead from there.
Sure. It could actually be a controversial topic in the community. I'll take it from the traditional approach of what people call these things and how I see it. So I think the main difference is when you're talking manual versus automated testing. Manual relies on a human being to actually execute the test case, where automated relies on a tool to actually execute the test case for you. I like to see it more as a testing, and in testing, you have processes that you manually need to perform, or you could partly perform it using a tool to help you automate part of it, or a tool to actually automate the whole process. So it all depends how you look at it. It's just taking the test case that a user has come up with and then leveraging either a human being to perform that test case, in the case of manual, or leveraging a tool to actually run that test for you in an automated fashion. And that's what automated testing would be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen a lot of folks in today's world start to want to do automation testing. And they started their careers as manual quality specialists, but now they want to get into the field of automated quality. And sometimes they struggle because some often you need the ability to code, but now we're starting to see the advent of a lot of no-code products in the market to help make that shift, not just for manual testers, but even the business community, right? How have you seen the evolution of testing products, automation testing products over the last 10 years? Way back in your early days in this space with Mercury's product, which now is owned by Micro Focus. But would love to get some insight from you on how these tools have evolved over the last 20 years.
Sure. It's almost I guess the benefit of being old is you have insight, and the bad thing about getting old is you're getting old. So I remember when I started off in like 96, we had these tools in 2000, WinRunner, to automate tests. And a lot of times you'd have the vendors saying, oh, just record and play back. You record a test script and it'll play back so anyone can do automation. And obviously that didn't work. And then you saw a shift like in 2006 to 2010 where people said, no, automation is software development. So therefore we need to program, we need to be programmers, we need to know languages, we need to use the same exact features and technology that developers use. So we'll use Selenium, we'll use Java to create our test cases. Now it's purely a hard-coded or a hardcore automation process where you're doing development. And so I shifted from being more record and playback to more of a developer-centric. And now I'm seeing more like a shift back to, you have developer skills, but you're leveraging a product now using AI and machine learning that can do some of the heavy lifting for you. So what maybe was a promise that wasn't fulfilled in 2000, now as we get into the new year, it's actually AI and machine learning are kind of leveraging technology that can make kind of record and play back a reality. Of course, it's never foolproof. You always need to understand how software development happens, how to code to make changes to it. So it's almost like a seesaw back and forth between the two approaches. I always see the best case is where you meet your team where your team is at or where they're strong with. So if you have a team of developers that are strong with development and testers that are strong with development, then you use a tool with an approach where you can use more of a developer-centric type of approach. And if you're more of a team of testing experts where they may be more experts on the UI of the application or how the application functions, then you may use another technology that doesn't necessarily need these programming skills to leverage. So I see it's best of both worlds. And also, like you said, back in the day, you only had one option. You had WinRunner or Quick Test Professional, and then you only had Selenium. Now you're seeing tools all over the place where it's either Cypress, or you see all these other solutions coming into the space where it's more, like you said, it's more focused on a tester that may not be a developer. So you have all these awesome tools entering the market. And I think what's great about it is there's not one tool that's correct for one team and one organization. It depends on the skill sets that your particular team has.
Yep. And I picked up on one very interesting point you mentioned about modern tools leveraging AI, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's very interesting because a lot of people are afraid of AI. But here's a perfect example of AI actually helping humans move further in their career and become more productive and not necessarily take away their roles, right? Yep. What we see a lot right now, Joe, is companies moving into the world of agile development, right? Or agile software delivery. And as they move into agile, a common thing that we're hearing and some of the recent reports are also mentioning about are testing taking the longest time in the agile world. And often we see a lot of manual testing still being pushed through in order to get the testing done in those short 2 week sprint cycle windows. And that naturally is leading to a limited amount of testing being done. But we believe there is a need now to leverage more and more automation, even in the agile world. What are your thoughts on agile and test automation within the agile world?
Yeah, absolutely. So agile, when I think of agile, I'm thinking more like DevOps nowadays. And DevOps, like you said, continuous integration, continuous deployment, where not only are we creating software faster in sprints, but we're also trying to get it to the hands of our customer quicker and faster with higher quality. And so when I talk about automation, I don't just think of UI automation. I think there's a lot of steps along that pipeline that can be automated to help the full software development lifecycle, so that it's not just focused in on a functional automation or a functional test script. It could be used to automate your infrastructure. It could be used to help you with packaged applications. You may have a team that may not be developers, and they may not even be developers. They bought a no-code solution to create an application and like a CRM, and now they need to test it. So you don't expect them to have to code for that. So you have solutions that are in that sweet spot, can help them with that. So I think there's really critical areas along the full pipeline now that can help you create software faster, that aren't necessarily focused heavily on just automation testing, but automation in general. Uh, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. No, I'm fully on the same page because it's not, and it's, within the software delivery lifecycle, there is that element of automation from that angle as well. But if you uplift it even into the process layer, we're now seeing the ability to do automation within, business processes. And that's gained a lot of steam. In fact, I would say that's gained a lot of visibility, much more so than traditional software delivery automation, just because of, the forward facingness of the automation with folks that actually use the processes from the business communities or even the end customers many times, right? But I think at the end of the day, you're right. How do we make the delivery of software faster, of higher quality? And quite frankly, the only way to do it is automation. I don't know if you'd agree with me or not.
yeah, I mean, I totally agree. But I think a lot of times when an organization says testing is slow, once again, they're just focusing on UI automation. They're not focusing on, are you developers doing a strong unit test? Do you have strong
Hmm.
integration tests? A lot of the tests we're creating that are supposed to be automated. So that's another thing people get in trouble with. They try to automate everything, and therefore they slow down the execution of the test suite because they're trying to automate everything. They may not have a lot of high value. So you have to be strategic in what you're automating. So you want to have automation invested all along your pipeline, in your unit tests, your integration tests, and in your UI tests, but also API tests. So when people say test is slowing down, I think you really need to drill down and not just blame a group of people as testers, but like, where along this pipeline are we being slowed down? How can we leverage automation to help us get quicker in an area that may not be UI automation? Or maybe we have a huge like, I worked for a team that had 3,000, 5,000 UI automated tests. And when they failed, even if it was a 5% failure rate, it's going to slow down because someone needs to debug that. So a lot of things you could do is pull in tools like AI that analyzes those results for you, can put them together and say you have 500 tests, but maybe only 2 of these are related to an actual issue. So if you fix these 2 issues, these 500 tests is going to help you. Is going to
Yep.
fix these tests. So that's going to help speed it up. Also, a lot of times you have these folks that say, oh, because we have containerization, we can run all the tests against all the things on every check-in. That's going to slow you down, because if you have a failure, you don't know what's causing the failure. So you have technologies now with AI that can analyze what's been checked in, and know you made a change to code component A and Z, and therefore you only need to run tests 1 through 3 to cover those 2 check-ins. So rather than running 2,000 tests, you're just running 3. So I think it's just being more strategic nowadays, being a little more sophisticated, not just we're automated 10,000 tests. It's more, let's automate the right things at the right point within our pipeline to really leverage automation the correct way.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I think a lot of this needs our testing community to be looked at as a strategic enabler for business,
Yeah.
right? I believe gone are the days where testers are supposed to come in at the tail end of the process. Absolutely not. I believe they're quality specialists, and we should have them playing a strategic role and having a strategic seat at the table to help the entire delivery organization make software of a higher quality, but also speed up their entire delivery process by making their voice heard on where the gaps where the gaps typically come in, how they can plan for it earlier, right?
Yeah, I love that term quality specialist and what you just mentioned there, because a lot of times, once again, I worked for a large organization and we were trying to have the developers contribute more to automation using BDD, behavior driven development. And I remember one of the testers saying, Joe, why do you keep trying to get developers more involved in automation and testing and then take away our job? Where I don't see it that way. I don't see testing go away. I see testing almost as an elevated, like you said, a quality advocate that's almost like a shepherd within your sprint team that has now more responsibility. They're not just doing pushing buttons and just following it like a hard-coded test script. They're actually adding a lot of value all along the software development lifecycle, from requirements, trying to tell people where they can add quality along the pipeline. So it's almost like an elevated position that's needed even more nowadays, right? So it's not just like, oh, testing's going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's going to become even more important because we're trying to develop quicker. So you need quality, quicker, and you need these experts to help shepherd the team to get there.
Exactly. No, I'm on the same page. In fact, we were talking about this internally with our team a couple of weeks ago, and we see software playing or quality playing a key role in enterprise innovation, right? And building on what you just said, the testers or the quality specialists, if they have the ability to leverage automation at scale, that allows them to play a more strategic role. And we think about shift left. A lot of times the requirements are not as clear for the developers, right? And instead of the developers and the testers constantly getting into an argument about quality of the code, so on and so forth, there is a much better opportunity for them to collaborate and possibly collaborate through automation. And what I mean by this is, let's look at the ability for the quality specialist to not just do the automation of the testing, but also then to have an excess capacity which they can use to make sure the requirements are of high enough quality, right? And that way the developers then are coding or building the right functionality, given that there is a solid level of quality in the requirements. So they have a key role to play. The quality specialists really have a key role to play in bringing organizations into this new digital world.
Yeah, 100%. And once again, I see technologies where it can monitor your sprint teams to say, this sprint team on every check-in has X amount of failures, and they do it every Thursday or something. And that could have a quality expert say, okay, maybe this team needs more training. What can we do to help educate them with quality to get them back up to speed so that they aren't dragging down the build when they do check-in code? I also think a lot of people, it's not all or nothing. I think a lot of times you can leverage technology to automate things and also use a human person. I think a great example of this is visual validation testing, where you're taking screenshots of a baseline, and on every check-in, you're comparing that against the baseline. If there's any differences, it alerts a human being like a tester, say, hey, look at this. Is this correct? And they may say, oh yeah, we have a new functionality. That's correct. So let's use this new baseline going forward. Oh no, I didn't notice these tests were overlapping. And so it's not even replacing a tester, because back in the day when I had a full-time job for an enterprise company, we used to test x-rays, and it was almost impossible to determine differences in an x-ray as a manual process without using a tool to say, hey, look, this new check-in, there's something different in this x-ray that you would not have seen, or you'd be take years probably to find that difference. So I think leveraging the right tools to help bubble that up, and like you said, to help empower your quality advocates to speak with your developers, to have these conversations around, hey, we found this issue. How can we build better quality? So something we can do. Is there a tool, a technique that we can help bake into the pipeline to make it easier for you as well?
Yeah, absolutely.